your college performance does not relate to the National Football League. It never
They
does.
played side by side with each other, and he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. That's an issue. That's a major issue.
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers.
Ever got to Texas.
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. It was Quinn Ewers' program, which Steve Sarkisian made very clear the entirety of the time that Arch Manning was in Austin. So for you to argue that because Ewers is a 7th-round pick, Arch Manning is not that good and not deserving of being first overall is asinine. It is wrong. It is incorrect.
I told you he's going to be number 1 overall. My whole thing was I'm buying
you're doing your thing now where you double down on a tape that is incorrect.
The best quarterback prospect to ever hit college football can't play
He's
over
not
a 7th-round pick.
There were 2 perfectly rated quarterback recruits in the history of the sport.
Quinn Ewers couldn't even play at Ohio State. He couldn't even play at Ohio State.
Quinn Ewers. Go look it up.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
Welcome to hour number 2, live right here to kick off a new week. It is a Monday morning, live on the Early Line on SportsGrid. He is Donnie Rightside. I am Ben Stevens. 2 more hours to go up until 11 a.m. Eastern time. In this second hour, the coach, J.Y. James Young, I'm sure still celebrating what he saw on Friday night with his New York Knicks, edging out the Boston Celtics, not even just edging them out, doing so in a large way to advance to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in 2.5 decades. What he saw out of the New York Knicks, what it means for the Eastern Conference Finals. Of course, his reaction to Game 7 yesterday afternoon in Oklahoma City as well. In some early thoughts on the opening and debut weekend of the WNBA season in 2025. MLB rivalry weekend, a full recap in our next segment, and a huge weekend in sports all across the landscape. Stanley Cup playoff action, a Game 7 yesterday, a series clincher in Game 6 on Saturday. Second leg of the Triple Crown, dramatic in Pimlico at the Preakness Stakes, and of course, our second major of the year in golf, in the PGA Championship. And Scottie Scheffler standing atop the leaderboard at a major once again.
No doubt about it. A big action-packed hour number 2, which also includes this week, Ben, the voting at the owners' meeting for the NFL's tush push. Will it continue? Will the verbiage actually change? So some big news there is the NFL will never let that slot go and say, you know what? We're just going to give way until we start our preseason action. No, they are always in the news and will continue to do that. And now the fate of the tush push will be over the next 2 days, Ben. Will it continue? Will it not continue?
Fate of also playoff seeding, DRS, in the National Football League. Where? Yeah, ridiculous.
You have that as a topic today.
Stop it.
Is that a topic on a show today? It needs to be a
We've
topic.
got some NFL stuff down there, so we'll talk about it to start hour 3 because we also have to talk about the big news on Friday in terms of Brock Purdy getting his very large payday. Donnie will have many thoughts on that. But here to start hour 2, major number 2 of this season in golf, major championship victory number 3 for Scottie Scheffler. Half of the career Grand Slam now. He had won 2 green jackets, and now his first PGA Championship. 11 under par for Scottie Scheffler for the tournament overall. An even par 71 yesterday that started with a couple of bad numbers for Scottie, and because of a John Rahm surge early in that back 9, Scottie Scheffler entered and made the turn, entering that back 9 in a tie at 9 under. Rahm faded down the stretch in the Green Mile, the very difficult 3-hole closing stretch at Quail Hollow, and Scottie Scheffler found his might once again. 11 under par, winning the PGA Championship in 2025, DRS, by 5 shots. 1 year in 1 day. following his arrest at Louisville at Valhalla, entering that second round. He wins a PGA championship for his third career major victory.
When they arrested him last year, Ben, did they arrest him for no personality? I'll be here all week, but besides that, I did enjoy the tournament itself. That Sunday was impressive, too, because it lined up as, we're going to get a good Sunday. Then it turned into, oh, no, it's a rout. Then in the blink of an eye, it turned out to, is Jon Rahm going to win this tournament over Scotty Scheffler? Yeah. Because of all people, Scotty Scheffler can't find his swing in the final round of a major championship, but it wasn't meant to be. An eventual 6-shot lead down the backstretch here. Scotty Scheffler was the best golfer all week long. But by the way, that golf course is devious out there. Do you see the 18th hole? Like, not only are you surrounded by grandstands, but they run a creek down the left side of that fairway and the green all the way to it, which everybody kept finding their way into that creek except for Scotty Scheffler. That was some of the toughest finishing holes that you could possibly have. And the one thing that I do enjoy about golf, as opposed to like regular sports, like let's just say hockey or, you know, the NFL or the NBA, where there's a clock where you can just run the clock out, you can't do that in golf. Even if you're up 6 shots on the final hole, like you still have to hit it down the middle, play it up close to the green. You dunk one in the drink. That's a stroke penalty and then stroke in distance at that point, and now you're in trouble. So I do appreciate that. But Scotty wasn't going to falter with that big of a lead down the stretch, and he played it exactly the way you're supposed to. So what turned into an uneventful Sunday turned very eventful for about a 30 to 40-minute swing there. And then Scotty Scheffler said, you know what? I'm not going to make the mistakes. Everybody else is going to succumb to the pressure, and I'm going to take home a major championship.
It's a great point, DRS, because Scotty Scheffler was sensational in round number 3 on Saturday. Eagled the drivable par 4 14th, birdied 15, birdied 17 and 18 again in that dire green mile in the very difficult closing stretch at Quail Hollow to take that commanding lead entering Sunday, where it felt like here is Scotty Scheffler, the world number 1, inevitable once again. But then bogeyed his first hole on Sunday, a 2 over par 37 on his opening 9. Jon Rahm went nuclear, and we were tied at 9 under as Scotty Scheffler made the turn, only for Rahm to go 5 over in his final 3 holes. A bogey on 16, doubles back-to-back on 17 and 18 in Scotty Scheffler to win the PGA Championship by 5 strokes. All 3 of his major titles so far, DRS, have come by at least 3 shots. Scotty Scheffler, dating back to the Waste Management in early March of 2022, has now won 15 times on the PGA Tour. That win at the WM Phoenix Open was his first on tour. He has won 15 times in total. Scotty Scheffler, with his 15 victories, is as many in that span as world number 2, 3, 4, and 5 have combined for Rory McIlroy, Xander Schauffele, Colin Morikawa, and Justin Thomas. That is his dominance. Oh, 3 players, as Scotty Scheffler is 28 years old, turning 29 next month in June. 3 players in the history of men's golf have won 15 times, including 3 majors prior to their 29th birthday. Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods, and now Scotty Scheffler.
Yeah, and no surprise that he's doing this. Did you see on the telecast yesterday they said in the Dallas area he won 40 of 42 events that he played as a junior? So he's used to winning, not used to buckling to the pressure at that point, and that's what you're going to need in major championships. I can't imagine stepping up to the tee on the back 9 of a major championship knowing like one bad shot and I'm not going to win this thing, the amount of pressure that you actually have to play with. And this isn't just on a local municipal golf course like, easy holes coming up. Those courses are set up to trap you in different scenarios. And as you talk about that green mile, those final 3 holes, they are designed for you not to go out and win the tournament. They're designed for you to go out and lose the tournament. And he was able to get through those.
No doubt about it, DRS. Inevitable is what Scotty Scheffler felt like on Sunday. Inevitable was a postseason collapse for the Toronto Maple Leafs, forcing a Game 7 with a 2-zip win in Sunrise against the reigning Stanley Cup champs in the Florida Panthers. Game 7, home ice in Toronto for the pride of Canada, and you get beat bad 6-1 in Game 7. Now, 23 years for the Maple Leafs since they last reached the conference finals in 2002, and they held a 2-0 series lead, taking advantage of home ice. But, Donnie, their final 2 games in Toronto, they get beat by the Panthers in both games 5 and 7, 6-1. Ugh.
Yeah, and I take a look now at the Toronto Maple Leafs, and if you're the fans, like, didn't it feel like this was your chance? Like, the Knicks are setting up for this. Like, hey, you know what? We might be able to get the job done.
Yeah.
Vanquish some demons in round number 1, 2-0 series lead against a really good Panthers team, and we just couldn't hold on. And the disappointing part was you showed a lot of heart in game number 6. We had 0 heart on home ice in games 5 and games number 7. So now that I'm maturing in my years, being in my late 40s, I say to myself, if I own the Maple Leafs, there'd be major changes coming in the offseason because, yes, you like superstars. Yes, you want to sell tickets. You will always sell tickets in Toronto. But is the goal saying we have a couple superstars and it's okay that we haven't won a cup in like 55, whatever years it's been? Or do we actually want to compete and win a championship and are rebuilding towards that? Because right now, this team doesn't have the heart to win anything. And it's not like, oh, we only gave them 2 years. No, you gave them like a decade together and they still can't get it done.
Part of the original 6, of course, the Maple Leafs, still a storied franchise in hockey, but not great results in the postseason, almost like the Dallas Cowboys of the NHL. How about journalism? What a comeback win at the Preakness Stakes on Saturday at Pimlico, battling with horses down the stretch, catching Gosger down the home stretch to win the second leg of the Triple Crown. More on the early line next.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
They've won 7 in a row. They've been dominant at Citi Field. Lindor's been insane. Pete Alonso's been raking.
Griffin Canning, David Peterson, those guys have pitched really, really well. And when you put it together with that lineup, especially like you said, Lindor's been great. They've got the makings of something very special in Queens.
Pharrell, coast to coast, only on SportsGrid.
Derek Carr has called it a career after 11 NFL seasons.
I think they knew before the draft that they had to make a move at this point. And by the way, Derek Carr did have a pretty good career. Made as many Pro Bowls as Eli Manning. So based on that, he should go to the Hall of Fame like Eli Manning. Well, Eli Manning does have a couple rings at that point, but always wanted to take a shot at Manning, who should not actually be in the Hall of Fame. Shouldn't be questioned an under 500 quarterback for his career. Stop the Manning.
The early line, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that ring. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple of
15.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Rivalry weekend in Major League Baseball. We went through all 15 series that we had for this weekend in the Bigs on Friday. Now a recap of what we saw. Some series have storied tradition. Some make geographical sense. Others, man, it's a lot of fun in its debut year. Of course, one of that we know, DRS, the Subway Series in New York between the Yankees and the Mets. In the first Subway Series of this year, up in the Bronx at Yankee Stadium, goes to the home team. They take the rubber match last night on Sunday night, winning 8-2 in a game that was tied at 2 apiece, entering the home half of the 8th before the Pinstripes plated 6 runs in the bottom half of that 8th inning. They win 2 of the 3 against the New York Mets, the opener on Friday, the finale on Sunday, and frankly, one of the main storylines, Juan Soto's return to the Bronx. he wasn't great. Cody Bellinger, sensational, including 6 ribbies yesterday in the finale to lead New York to a series win.
Yeah, and by the way, yesterday, I thought that game would stay under the total, and damn it should have stayed under the total, except for a crazy 8th inning, which a big error by the polar bear. You have a sharp ground ball hit to you, make a simple throw to the plate, you get it out. Maybe the Mets even win that game, let alone the Mets not losing by 6 runs in that game, going over the total with an 8-2 final. Good win for the New York Yankees. As you take a look yesterday, Aaron Judge, 1 of 3 to creep ahead at 401 as his Major League Baseball batting average here. Still a sensational season overall, but you only got 3 hits out of the Mets. You can't go up into a game and expect that. But by the way, Max Fried, sensational so far for the New York Yankees. Look at that ERA, 1.29. We were entering yesterday, and we were talking about a pro baseball today. I believe over the last 30 days, Max Fried, how about a .55 ERA coming into that game? He's been an unbelievably good signing for the Yanks.
Ridiculous. That 1.29 ERA and the Mark IV Max Fried DRS, the best in all of Major League Baseball. He has started 10 games now for the Yankees this year. He has not allowed more than 2 earned in any of those 10 outings for the Pinstripes. What a signing by New York this offseason. The guy that everybody in the Bronx was hoping to sign in Juan Soto went to the other New York team in Queens, now plays for the Amazons. Not a great return to the Bronx for Juan Soto this weekend. 1 of 10 at the dish, did record 4 walks. That's the patience of Soto at the plate. 3 Ks and 2 runs. Again, Juan Soto hasn't been great so far this year for the New York Mets, and he was booed mercilessly in his return to the Bronx this weekend, especially in that first at-bat on Friday night.
And rightfully so, because, again, it's a rivalry. It's in the same city. You felt spurned there. And, it's like, we're going to give them a lot of guff here from the right field seats. But also understand this, like, the amount of money that these guys are making now, it's just a going rate for superstars. But you still can't like, if I'm going to pay that much money, like, I better hit 360 with 50 bombs every single year just to justify that. And you see Juan Soto, who's having a decent season because his MO has always been, I get on base. But his on-base percentage is only a 379, which in comparison to Pete Alonso is a 406. Or Aaron Judge is a 490. So the season isn't equating just yet, but the Mets are still in first place, 29-18. You'll take that, and hopefully as the warmer weather comes in, he'll get hotter at the plate as it goes, and you'll see how it plays out. Because I still love that 1 through 3 with the Mets. Lindor, Soto, and Alonso is going to do a lot of damage, but it's just hard, again, just to wrap your head around how much money these guys are making, and the expectations are, if you get paid that much, you should be doing record-breaking things every single year, every single game, every single month, and it just doesn't work that way.
And both teams still very, very good this season. It makes a Subway Series feel even more significant. The Yankees, the only team above 500 in the American League East, 27-19, 5-game advantage over the Boston Red Sox at this moment. The Mets, despite losing 2 of 3, 29-18, but who is hot on their heels, back by only a half game after sweeping the Pittsburgh Pirates? That would be the Philadelphia Phillies. How about the youngster, Mick Abel, the 23-year-old making his MLB debut yesterday for the Phils as the Phillies blanked the Pirates 1-0. Abel outduels Paul Skeens. The Pirates now 3-7 in the 10 starts that Skeens has made this year, despite the fact that Skeens has only allowed 17 total earned runs. They're awful. Phillies good, 28-18 DRS after the 3-game series sweep.
That's how you do it. And the joke always is with Paul Skeens, like, hey, you know what? Can I get 1 run? That would be a miracle because it seems like he doesn't get any run support whatsoever. 6 hits for the Pirates, no runs in that game. The Phillies scored 1 time here on a ground out that just beats a double play, by the way. The Phillies were lucky to get that 1 run. They win 1-0. But the question again is Paul Skeens in Pittsburgh with the ownership group, which I always get a kick out of too. Like, are they going to come out now and say, like, what are you mad at? Just come out to a great ballpark and watch Paul Skeens pitch every 5th day in Pittsburgh. We're not supposed to win. We're Pittsburgh here, which is such a crime because I know we get like off tangent sometimes. Sell the team for more money than you can count and let that Pittsburgh fan base actually enjoy what it's like to be in a Major League Baseball city. It's a crime what some fan bases have to put up with because, again, you can't vote out the ownership group. And no matter if you show up 1 person or 10,000 or 20,000 to the ballpark, they're always going to be profitable. That's the issue. People love their Pirates. They want to support them. But the owner's like, hey, I'll take your money. I'll give you nothing on your return on investment, but just keep paying. It's baseball. What do you want?
Free Paul Skeens, 23 games for the Buccos, by the way, scoring fewer than 5 runs. They are 6-17 in that stretch. Abel, by the way, striking out 9, tying a franchise record in Philadelphia for the most Ks in a debut in Major League Baseball. All of those rivalries great. They've got nothing on the Vetter Cup. The first ever Vetter Cup between the Seattle Mariners and the San Diego Padres, of course, for Pearl Jam's frontman, Eddie Vedder. Why? Because he lived at Seattle and San Diego, each city at a time in his life. And a big one for the M's, DRS. They go on the road to Southern California, sweeping the Padres to take leg number 1 of this bitter rivalry.
Yeah, Wu outdueled King yesterday, but also understand this. Does Eddie Vedder give them a signed Eddie Vedder Chicago Cubs jersey if you win the Vedder Cup between the Mariners and the Padres? Because that would be a nice prize to hang on your wall.
I mean, he will not. He will give them a signed Eddie Vedder guitar that I think we got to talk with some folks probably in Seattle now. As they win the first 3 games, they'll meet again in August. And a pretty good run differential for Seattle, by the way. Might not even get to the EV tiebreaker. That's exit velocity for Eddie Vedder based on the hardest hit base knock. However, Eddie Vedder happy, I guess, maybe with Seattle. I'm sure he's trying to remain impartial. But his Cubs swept the White Sox in the Crosstown Classic this weekend in all 3 games. More MLB next.
Still underdogs at home, on the road, and all of these games. It's time for people to start understanding it's a legitimate team that has a chance not only to win the series against Cleveland, but also maybe even go all the way to the NBA Finals.
I think a lot of the focus has been on why the Cavs have not played particularly well. A lot of that is due to injury, of course, but I think that's taking too much credit away from what the Pacers have done.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Malaysia Puwali, who you guys know I am a huge fan, has decided to switch allegiances and stay in league. And now she's going to go play for Kim Mulkey. Her, Flau'jae Johnson in the backcourt. It's going to be interesting to watch. You wonder sometimes with roster construction, maybe too much is not too good.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Jason Tatum underwent surgery to repair a torn right Achilles tendon. That is obviously a season-ending injury, and you know that's long rehab. You're talking
that's a year.
That's a year.
I don't wish that on anybody. I don't. I hate that Achilles, knees and ankles. I don't like talking about them. I've said it a million times. But screw the Celtics.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Live right here on this Monday morning on the Early Line on SportsGrid, recapping rivalry weekend around Major League Baseball. The hottest team entering Sunday in its rivalry against its Midwest foe, the border battle between the Twins and the Brewers. That was Minnesota, who had won 13 straight, but the Brewers in the finale beating the Twins 5-2 to avoid the sweep this weekend in Milwaukee and snap that 13-game win streak for the Twins. The RS, the only team, that being Minnesota, that has won 10 games or more in a row this year. 13-game win streak comes to a close.
Yeah, by the way, they were well under 500 before that streak started. Now climbing back up in that Central Division, need every win they can get. And also a couple of those wins coming without their two best ball players. They're playing good baseball. You can't win every day in Major League Baseball. You just don't want to have a 13-game win streak turn into a 4-game losing streak. So important that they bounce back right away at this point. But that's a great streak for the Twins, a team that you sort of were like every single year in the Central, they're one of the players there. It's like, oh, they're just not that good this year. Why is that? 13-game win streak, they're right back in it.
DRS, we thought the American League Central in the opening 2 weeks of this year might be the classic AL Central. Bunch of teams hovering around 500 and maybe one good one. Well, the one at the top, the Detroit Tigers, who took 2 of 3 this weekend in the geographic rivalry against the Toronto Blue Jays, separated by 231 miles. The Tigers winning the weekend. They've got the best record in the bigs by now a few games, 31-16. A 5-game lead over Minnesota, 26-21. 5.5 in front of the Guardians and the Royals, 25-21 for Cleveland, 26-22 for KC. If the season ended today, 3 of the 6 playoff spots in the, more than that. No, 3 of the 6 playoff spots. The division winner would be the Tigers, who would be the 1 seed in the American League playoff bracket. And those 2 wild card spots would be, or all 3. I'm trying to do my playoff math here in the extended and expanded playoff look in the American League and all of MLB would be from that AL Central. I'll stop talking now. A team that we thought, DRS, would certainly factor into the playoff race around the American League, the Baltimore Orioles. In fact, it has been quite the opposite. 15-30. The O's have lost 6 straight. They got swept this weekend in the DMV rivalry against the Nationals in all 3 games in Camden Yards. And over the weekend, they fired manager Brandon Hyde, which is rather shocking because Hyde was the guy to turn things around. In 2021, DRS, the O's were 52-110. 2 years later in 2023, the O's were the 1 seed in the American League, having won more than 100 games, 91 wins last year, entered this season with the second best price to win the American League pennant. Brandon Hyde fired 45 games into the season, actually a little bit less than that, and a 15-30 mark for the Orioles. A disastrous year in Baltimore.
It certainly is. And yesterday, we do a thing on our program, Pro Baseball Today, the big dogs of the day. Yesterday, mine was the Washington Nationals. They were as high as a plus 160 price, easily dispatching of the Orioles. I wasn't buying into fire your manager getting a bump. I just don't think they're very good at this point right now. And the Orioles sitting at 15-30. I don't know where they go from here. It's not as if you can find great pitchers and just pull them off the assembly line and have them come up and start for you or make a trade. That's going to be interesting to watch it play out because that was a team we expected to be good. But also talking about the Central Division, right? Major League Baseball doesn't necessarily love that because that's typically not where the bigger cities and the bigger markets are. But I looked at this yesterday. I really like the Blue Jays team total over 4.5 at a plus 115 price. A score of 3-2. If you watch the first inning, Akil Baddoo stole 3 runs directly from the Jays in the first inning by making an unbelievable wall catch and then a diving catch, which turned into a double play. He doesn't make any of those catches. You might have 5 runs for the Blue Jays in the first inning. They only get the 2, but Tigers, man, 31-16 on the season. That's a pretty good story. And Job came into that game as one of the higher xFIP pitchers in Major League Baseball. Sometimes you get a little bit of help from your friends in the outfield, get a good start, and he had it.
A couple of good starts for the young starter for Detroit, Jackson Job, here in a row. The Tigers, second best price to win the AL pennant, plus 450 now. Only fewer than $2 behind the Yankees at a plus 280 number. I bet the Tigers to win the American League before the year got started at 10-1. That price has been slashed in half. Detroit, of course, 5th best price now to win a World Series at 13-1. The Dodgers, despite being swept by the Angels for the first time since 2010 in 15 years this weekend, the World Series favorites at plus 250.
Yep, that's not going to change all that much because nobody really cares about the regular season the way it is. If those teams get to the playoffs and they're healthy, frontline starting pitching wins, and certainly talent wins as well, the Dodgers will be there in the end. They'll be fighting for that spot. That's why they're still the favorite.
No doubt about it. The coach, J.Y. James Young, joins us next for a weekend recap around the association. and your college performance does not relate to the National Football League. It never
They
does.
played side by side with each other, and he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. That's an issue. That's a major issue.
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers.
Ever got to Texas?
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. It was Quinn Ewers' program, which Steve Sarkisian
Why
made
would it
very
be Quinn
clear
Ewers'
the entirety of the time that Arch Manning was in Austin. So for you to argue that because Ewers is a 7th-round pick, Arch Manning is not that good and not deserving of being first overall is asinine. It is wrong. It is incorrect.
I told you he's going to be number 1 overall. My whole thing was I'm buying
you're doing
him
your
because
thing now where you double down on a tape
I'm
that
not
is
doing
incorrect
that. The
when I
best
show it's
quarterback
incorrect.
prospect to ever hit college football can't play
He's
over
not
a 7th-round
There were
pick
two
who didn't even
perfectly
play
rated
good.
quarterback recruits in the history of the sport.
Quinn Ewers couldn't even play at Ohio State. He couldn't even play at Ohio State.
Quinn Ewers. Go look it up.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
Now in the NBA postseason, we have reached the conference finals round. It starts tomorrow night on a Tuesday in Oklahoma City. And for the first time in 25 years, that will include New York City on a Wednesday night inside the world's most famous arena. How do we reach this stage? A recap of the weekend. Game 7 yesterday between the Thunder and the Nuggets. Game 6 on a Friday night inside MSG between the Knicks and the Celtics. And what lies ahead with the coach, JY James Young, here on a Monday on the Early Line on SportsGrid. JY, I am sure the celebrations continue for you. Your New York Knicks to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time since 2000. Congratulations. We look forward to the breakdowns and the recaps here on TEL.
Well, I was hoping I was going to get a congratulations from Donnie Rightside, but I guess I couldn't expect something like that. No, it's great to be on with you. Some great basketball, but well, maybe he'll give it to me at some point in the next 28 minutes.
It felt like a natural time for DRS to step in and just say the word congrats. Instead, a you-know-what-eating grin on his face, so I wonder where he is going with his first question. My first question will be about Game 7 yesterday afternoon in Oklahoma City. And JY, the main question for this year's Thunder team, who had been the number 1 seed in the Western Conference now for 2 consecutive years. Would they use the playoff growth experience last year, continue to learn from it in this second-round set against the Denver Nuggets, and reach a place they had not as a franchise in nearly a decade and had not with this core? The answer to that is yes, in a monumental Game 7 win yesterday at home, 125-93, a 32-point win for OKC against the Nuggets. They cover as an 8.5-point home favorite. JY, what has Oklahoma City proven to you here in this playoff run?
To go win a Game 7 against a team that's more experienced, where I was thinking that the line was too high and that they were going to be in the game. What a performance by Oklahoma City, particularly that 18-5 run in the second quarter where the game was close, Ben, and then all of a sudden, Jalen Williams woke up from his slumber that lasted the majority of the series. I do believe 11 points, 5 out of 5 from the floor down that stretch of the second quarter. And once they threw that punch, there was nothing left that Denver can do. Denver that didn't lean obviously heavily on Nikola Jokic, and obviously, we can get into the play of that man, Alex Caruso, and his defense, and how the NBA allowed him to kind of get into him a little bit and get him off of his spot. But to me, it's about Jalen Williams stepping up, these young guys making plays, SGA being better. But then on the other side, obviously the injury to Michael Porter Jr. hampered him. Jamal Murray, usually a clutch guy in a Game 7, was not. And then Aaron Gordon, who literally, folks, had a grade 2 strain. He had no business no business playing in that game yesterday, but he was good, giving you what he could. And then Christian Brown, big performance out of him, particularly early in the game, trying to keep Denver in it.
Yeah, bottom just fell out on them, JY. You take a look at some of their superstar players injured. You got the most that you could here. OKC clearly was the better team, and they performed like that in game number 7, which then brings us to the next round here. OKC, no rest for the weary, coach. They're going to be right back on the court tomorrow, taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves. And if we take a look at the FanDuel Sportsbook right now, the odds to win this series, heavy for OKC, no surprise, at a minus 375, and the Timberwolves at a plus 300. Talk to me about this, coach, because round number 1 for OKC, easily dispatching of Memphis 4-0. I actually like the fact that they went 7 games against a quality opponent here and still had to face adversity even in a game number 7. How are we setting up this next series where they rested Minnesota Timberwolves team taking on OKC fresh from the fight here?
Well, listen, I think they've gotten their fight, right? And I think Oklahoma City is going to be better off now. And I think, when you look at Minnesota, guys, let's be honest. They had an extremely, maybe it's just too strong a statement to say, easier pathway than people thought, particularly because of their size, right? They were able to impose their will, with Rudy, especially with Julius Randle, Naz Reid, and so on and so forth. This is going to be the first series now where it's size on size. Obviously Hartenstein versus Rudy. You look at, obviously, you're looking at Chet Holmgren with his size and his length to be able to go against a Julius Randle. Now, you can't roll Julius Randle into the low post in this series because you can't pull Rudy Gobert to the perimeter. So some of the things that you may think could be matchup for Minnesota are not here. I like the battle-tested Oklahoma City Thunder to go take this series. Honestly, guys, and I've been on this team, Minnesota, going to this point. I think this may be over. And ready? I think it could be over in 5.
Could be the gentleman's sweep, JY. The odds makers are in love with Oklahoma City, and correctly so, for the NBA's best team all year long, 68 wins, the NBA's best cover team throughout the regular season as well. Game 7 in the 32-point win for the Thunder, just their second cover in their 9 games since game number 2 of the opening round set against the Grizzlies. But even here, you see a minus 375 price outright in favor of OKC. Shortest series correct score, team to win, and in how many games is 5. Oklahoma City in 5 at plus 270. You highlighted the matchup advantages. But JY, I think naturally on paper, guys and people would look at what we are seeing entering game number 1 tomorrow night in OKC and say, well, the Thunder are at a huge advantage. This team just went to 7 games against a Denver team that won an NBA championship 2 seasons ago and has to turn around in a 48-hour window to start the Western Conference Finals with only a day of rest in between. Meanwhile, the Timberwolves dispatched the Golden State Warriors quickly. They didn't really have to face a ton against Steph Curry. 6 days of rest for Minnesota. The age-old rest versus rust debate on full display tomorrow night, JY, in game number 1 between the Thunder and the Timberwolves. How do you expect this game to play out?
Yeah, I think it'll be a tight game to start. I think Minnesota's going to try and lean on its defense. So the under 214 is where I'm looking at. I am concerned a little bit about the point spread. Maybe you get a little bit of Oklahoma City maybe not getting off to a good start. So I would look at maybe the opposite, maybe taking plus the points or letting the game start early. And then we'll go from there. But I think you'll plus the points if you want to take a pregame. Otherwise, let the game start, then jump on Oklahoma City if it's tight. But I do think Minnesota tries to slow this game and play down. So I look for the game to go under 214 and a half.
All right,
if we're taking a look at the
Minnesota, appreciate the. Oh, sorry,
right.
DRS. Somebody didn't tell you that.
Happened?
All right, JY, we got to get JY out of here. Something's up for him. JY, appreciate your time quickly here. Didn't even get to the Madison Square Garden game. It's all right, though, JY. We appreciate it. We will talk soon throughout this week. Best to you. All right, DRS, what do you want to talk about now? Should we just talk about the NFL under?
No, so what happened? What has happened?
You and I don't. That was our producer, Joe Frieso, telling us in our earpieces he doesn't know. JY texted him. We hope all is okay with the coach.
All right.
But we've kind of already discussed the NBA playoffs. We've given our thoughts on these series that we will see in the conference finals. And what we saw, of course, in Game 7 yesterday in Oklahoma City, what we saw in Game 6 on Friday night inside Madison Square Garden. So where do you want to go? You want to talk NFL owners meetings? Up next, the tush-push ban, maybe?
Oh.
Divisional.
Look.
Yeah.
I want to talk all that stuff because these are hot topics, and thrown in with Brock Purdy, which I do want to start there for just a brief moment because I thought it was hilarious where usually in professional sports, when you're an ownership group, you're a team and you have a league, you want to celebrate a big moment, Ben. What happens here? Monday morning, Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning, Thursday morning, Friday morning. Huge announcement. The minute people are awake, we want to celebrate this. Brock Purdy signs a massive new contract extension and a Friday news bump, just like when the Dallas Cowboys signed their new head coach. We didn't want to celebrate it. We knew the people would pan it. Maybe in a couple days they'll forget about it. I almost did forget about it. Not so fast, Ben.
Donnie's got thoughts next.
Jason Tatum underwent surgery to repair a torn right Achilles tendon. That is obviously a season-ending injury, and you know that's long rehab. You're talking
That's a year.
That's a year.
I don't wish that on anybody. I don't. I hate that Achilles, knees and ankles. I don't like talking about them. I've said it a million times. But screw the Celtics.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Your college performance does not relate to the National Football League. It never does.
They played side by side with each other, and he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. That's an issue. That's a major issue.
It wasn't that he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers.
Ever got to Texas?
It wasn't that he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. It was Quinn Ewers' program, which Steve Sarkisian made very clear the entirety of the time that Arch Manning was in Austin. So for you to argue that because Ewers is a seventh-round pick, Arch Manning is not that good and not deserving of being first overall is asinine. It is wrong.
It is incorrect. He's going to be number one overall. My whole thing was I'm buying him.
You're doing your thing now where you double down on a tape
no, I'm not doing that. The best quarterback prospect to ever hit college football can't play.
He's
over
not,
a seventh-round
There were
pick
two
who didn't even
perfectly
play
rated
good.
quarterback recruits in the history of the sport.
Quinn Ewers couldn't even play at Ohio State. He couldn't even play at Ohio State.
Quinn Ewers. Go look it up.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
All right, enough NBA playoff talk for right now. No NBA playoff games on this Monday. Big weekend in the National Football League with some news following, of course, what was scheduled release week around the NFL a week ago. Friday night here on the East Coast. Friday afternoon, we'll give them out by the bay in San Francisco. The 49ers announce a large contract extension for quarterback Brock Purdy. At the end of his third year of his National Football League career, Mr. Irrelevant, the final pick of the 2022 NFL Draft, hits a big payday. 5 years, $265 million. That is $53 million per year on annual average basis. Now, 10 quarterbacks around the National Football League make north of $50 million per season, Brock Purdy included. Donnie, you said right before the break that you think the timing of this announcement from the 49ers as an organization is indicative of what?
They want to avoid public scrutiny in every way possible because organizations love celebrations, and when they do something right, they want to let everybody know about it. You've had, I don't know, let's just say months and months and months, Ben, to get ready for this moment where you expected to sign Brock Purdy. And when that's done, you would figure it's a monster press release very early in the week to celebrate Brock Purdy, get him on the rounds, radio stations, and when it's a hot topic. Everybody knows in the sports business, political business, business, I should say, when you have bad news, you dump that on a Friday night because the markets aren't going to catch up on a Saturday and Sunday. And by Monday, so many things happen over the weekend, you don't even remember Brock Purdy, which is case in point. Like, just looking at the notes here, I wasn't even going to come on the show and talk Brock Purdy at all until you mentioned it, and then you stoked the fire once again. Now, hear me out. Brock Purdy is a good NFL quarterback. Nobody's going to argue that. The statistics bear he's had solid numbers on a good football team with a great offensive coordinator. But, Ben, we all understand how business works at this point. You don't bid against yourself. The reason I bring this up is he's making so much money now. And again, it is the going rate for a quarterback, and I'm trying not to contradict myself with the plan I'm trying to lay out. But understand this, it does go back to Daniel Jones, and Brock Purdy is so much better than Daniel Jones, but not a single other football team wanted Daniel Jones as their starting quarterback for anywhere near the price point that the Giants signed them to. So you're bidding on yourself. And I say the same thing, and we'll never know. And yes, Brock Purdy could have played this year under 500,000, 800,000, whatever it was, and then become a free agent. But I guarantee you this right now, Brock Purdy's making significantly more playing with a hometown team than he would on the open market, which then leads into the York family. When your window is steadily closing at this point and you're losing players to injury and you just can't keep up with the salary cap is what we're telling, because you had to get ready for Brock Purdy signing. Every $5, $10, $15 million makes such a big deal when you're trying to keep that football team together. And if I told you right now, like what, by the way, Brock Purdy's is it 50 million? Like what was the final number on his contract? Like the average, was it 50, 55?
53 mil
something
per
in that
year.
range?
53 mil per year. Yeah.
53 million a year. I'm telling you right now, there is no way any other NFL team was giving Brock Purdy $50+ million a year. Oh, Donnie, you don't know that. Yes, you were bidding against yourself at this point. You were probably better off saying, you know what, Brock?
Yeah.
We couldn't find a trade partner or a contract, whatever it was. We want to keep you as quarterback. You're going to play another year on this contract. And if you are phenomenal, we're going to franchise tag you at upwards of $60+ million because you deserve it. And maybe he did. But for me, Ben, just the simplest point. That was a Friday news dump. You overpaid the guy, a solid quarterback. Nobody in the rest of the NFL teams were going to pay him that much money. You played yourself, 49ers. You did.
And in fairness, as it should be said, Brock Purdy under contract for one more year in his rookie deal entering 2025. So it wasn't like he had market value where other teams were making a bid. Could the Niners get a sense of what that open market value would look like? I am sure. For me, DRS, it's not overly shocking. I thought Brock Purdy would make north of $50 million. Is he worthy of it? That's a different conversation. It is the going rate for quarterbacks. I said 10 QBs in the NFL make north of $50 million per year. Now make it 11 with the addition of Brock Purdy, tied for the 7th highest salary on an annual average per year basis alongside Jared Goff. In all of those deals, all 11 quarterbacks that make more than $50 million per year have signed those extensions in now the last 3 off seasons, dating back to the off season entering 2023. It is just the inflation price for a quarterback salary in the NFL. There are some, Donnie, that would say, could Brock Purdy serve as an inflection point? Is he worthy of $53 million per year? Could the NFL itself, in giving a contract extension for a starting quarterback, say, you're really good, you're the face of our franchise, but here's $45 million per year, and that's where we feel comfortable. The Niners decided not to do that. It is all very fascinating because it's the context that Purdy has dealt with the entirety of his NFL career. If he was a second-round pick, would we be looking at this contract extension the same way? Brock Purdy has always been Mr. Irrelevant. When he took over the reins for an injured Jimmy Garoppolo during the end of his rookie year in 2022, led San Francisco to the NFC Championship game, it was always the idea, is it Brock Purdy? Is it Kyle Shanahan's system? Is it the cast and crew around the quarterback spot? Could anybody go out there and be as successful? I think we have debunked that idea to an extent, but I still think that narrative does follow Brock Purdy, which makes $53 million still seem a little bit outlandish.
Exactly, and also understand this, too. You're right about this situation, Ben. It wasn't like there was some sort of agreement where if you're the last pick in the draft, you can never be franchise tagged, and I was like, whoa. If we let this play out, we might just lose him for nothing at this point, even though we've only got him for $800,000 for the past couple of years, which is the biggest steal in football to get a quarterback playing above his pay grade. But now you take a look at it and say, all right, well, he didn't even get like a hometown discount. Like, hey, man, you're making $800,000. Why don't we settle on like 35, 38 million to see what, that, let's just say Baker Mayfield is getting or something on that extension type of range. Like, you got top market value here without even having the gun to the 49ers where they held him. Where, again, he could have played out at less than $1 million this year. And then they go, man, you're really good. Good. I want my $60 million. Yeah, I don't think we're going to give that to you for 4 or 5 years. How about 60 for 1 year? And we'll try to redo this again, like they were doing with Dak Prescott down in Dallas. I'm not saying he can't live up to expectations and that money. Nobody was paying him that much. You can't overpay in the NFL with the salary cap and expect to win championships here. And the Niners are losing players already because of it.
So let's talk about that money and what it means for the Niners next.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
They've won 7 in a row. They've been dominant at Citi Field. Lindor's been insane. Pete Alonso's been raking.
Griffin Canning, David Peterson, those guys have pitched really, really well. And when you put it together with that lineup, especially like you said, Lindor's been great. They've got the makings of something very special in Queens.
Pharrell, coast to coast, only on SportsGrid.
Derek Carr has called it a career after 11 NFL seasons.
I think they knew before the draft that they had to make a move at this point. And by the way, Derek Carr did have a pretty good career. Made as many Pro Bowls as Eli Manning. So based on that, he should go to the Hall of Fame like Eli Manning. Well, Eli Manning does have a couple rings at that point, but always wanted to take a shot at Manning, who should not actually be in the Hall of Fame. Shouldn't be questioned an under 500 quarterback for his career. Stop the Manning.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that roof. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple of 15.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Brock Purdy signs his new big deal, a 5-year contract extension worth $265 million, $53 million per year. Brock Purdy now one of the 11 quarterbacks around the National Football League that make at least $50 million per year, tied for the 7th highest annual average salary alongside Jared Goff, both at $53 million per season. And Donnie, that is news in itself. It is also news for San Francisco that has spent a lot of money in the past few off seasons with a lot of a discount on their quarterback salary. When you are the final pick of the 2022 NFL draft, of any NFL draft, your rookie contract is an absolute steal, especially if that contract is at the quarterback spot and is your starting QB. Brock Purdy in his first 3 years in the NFL made $2.6 billion in total. Brock Purdy per week on average as a part of this new contract extension will make $2.9 million per week, making more than he made in the first 3 years combined of his NFL career. So where does that leave San Francisco entering this year? A Niners team expected to bounce back with a win total that leaves me scratching my head at 10.5.
Yeah, I didn't take a look all the way and analyze their schedule per se. So I'm sure the win total probably correlates to the type of schedule that they do have. But also understand this, when you're looking at the lineup that the 49ers are in, and also with Brock Purdy, you can't slander guys because they have a very good, surrounding supporting cast and or a great coach. It's not fair to do that because then again, you're saying like anybody could be a good quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers and Kyle Shanahan. And that hasn't always been the case here. But the offensive line was always above average. You might have some question marks coming into the season about that line. George Kittle just got paid. He's still one of the best tight ends in football, but also getting up there a little bit in years. Ricky Pearsall, one of those first-round draft picks you hope is going to take the next step. Jennings, is he still going to be effective? And also Brandon Ayuk, who's coming off a devastating knee injury at this point. And Christian McCaffrey has maybe 2 bionic legs. So we're not looking at the 49ers coming into the season like, all right, full throttle, let's go out there. There's a lot of question marks with this team for the 49ers.
Sure.
If they do stay healthy, yes, they will be a problem. Because, again, Brock Purdy is a solid quarterback. And if McCaffrey is, let's just say, Ben, 75% of what he was 2 years ago, that's still good enough to be a top 5 NFL running back here. And then George Kittle, as I told you, the wide receivers, if they can get healthy and still perform. But the defense also lost some of their playmakers over the past couple of years, and that's going to be an issue as well. That all elite linebacking core, now it seems like we're just down to Fred Warner at this point here. So there's a lot of things to tune up, but I'm not going to doubt it because I've always liked the 49ers. I've always liked the franchise, specifically betting them week to week with offensive props because Kyle Shanahan is one of the best play callers in the NFL over the past 10 to 15 years. But for me, they probably will make the playoffs because a lot of teams make the playoffs, but I didn't look over the schedule just yet to really take a look at that 10.5, which shows me that their schedule not nearly as hard as when we were previewing some of the teams in the NFC East just last week.
Yeah, absolutely so. DRS, in the NFC East, all 4 teams, or at least in the NFC North, all 4 teams, 4 of the 10 most difficult schedules in the National Football League. The San Francisco 49ers, based on projected
they got
win
a good
totals,
schedule.
rest, home field advantage, they have the easiest schedule in the NFL, according to Warren Sharp. Thus why you have 10.5. The under has the juice at -135. Donnie, there's no question the 49ers have a ton of talent. But for me, they have a ton of question marks still, based on some of the injuries, of course, that led to the 49ers only winning 6 games a season ago. But at their peak, San Francisco as successful as many teams around the NFL. They have played in 4 of the previous 6 NFC Championship games, 4 of the last 5 entering last year. They have reached 2 Super Bowls in the last 6-year window, of course, coming up short against the Kansas City Chiefs in each, and they have been an odds darling. The odds have always been optimistic on the San Francisco 49ers because of the overwhelming amount of talent. So is this odds optimism? Is it an easy schedule? Is it overrated because of the odds? Or is it proven? For me, Donnie, I think there are really good teams. I think there are really bad teams. In every NFL year, I think there are fascinating teams. I think the 49ers are the most fascinating team in the NFC because we'll figure out if the odds are true, I think, rather quickly.
No, you're right about that. Like, we're going to get news, and if Christian McCaffrey says he's feeling as great as he is, he does tend to get injury prone, but when he wasn't injury prone, man, that offense was an absolute machine. But again, we're used to Deebo Samuel being full tilt in that offense. He's no longer there. Brandon Ayuk, one of the better young wide receivers in football, leg injury here. There's so many question marks where if all those questions are answered, yeah, they'll probably get 11 wins. But if those questions are 50-50, they're not going to get 11 wins. I don't care what their schedule is.
Completely agree. Hour number 3 up next.